what God is going to say through us on this morning, man. So thankful and grateful to each of you, amen, that have decided to join this morning. I thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for rocking with me, amen, as we enter into our word on this morning. And I'm going to do Instagram from my phone. Bear with me. I got 3 different things going here. We're going to work all of them, man. We're going to get this word out this morning. As we continue to deal with stability and understanding what it means to be stable in God. Amen. So this morning, this whole week, we've been dealing with stability, the idea of staying stable, the idea of staying stable, man, and staying connected to what it is that God has for us, man. That's what we're diving into. That's what we're going to deal with. That's what we're breaking down to understand, to make sure that as we think about God, man, and how God does what he does, how God operates in and through our lives, man, we definitely understand all that God is doing and all that God is making happen in our lives, man. So that becomes important for us as we walk on this journey that God is calling for us to be stable. Stability helps us to continue to navigate through all that. Sometimes the enemy's throwing at us, life is throwing at us, this, that, throwing at us, amen, so that we can continue to walk into what God has for us on today. Instagram, I'm not sure if y'all been seeing me pop on and off. This new program I'm using this morning, it's been kind of acting a little weird. So if you look a little weird on Instagram, I apologize. But I just wanted to make sure I got to get these videos on YouTube, and that's the easiest way to do it. So I pray you guys just bear with me this morning. If you've been seeing it on and off, look like you couldn't join. This program is acting crazy in the background. So thank you guys. Amen. This morning, man, we're gonna go to the book of Luke. We're gonna go to the book of Luke. We're gonna look at something as I talk about making sure we're able to pull in. Making sure we're able to pull in so that in the day of our trying, the day of our trouble, amen, we are then able to stand. So this morning, we're going to go to the book of Luke. We're going to let's go to chapter 22. Let's go to chapter, one of my favorite stories, man. Chapter 22. And we're going to look at verse 31. The book of Luke, chapter 22. We're going to look at verse 31. Book of Luke 22. We're going to look at verse 31. Amen. And as we talk about being, we've been talking about filling up, allowing God to be in so that when pressures apply, you have something to pull out. Remember I said yesterday that the enemy can only appeal to our flesh, right? So the question we have to ask ourselves is why? Why does he, sometimes you have to ask the question, why is he even bothering me, right? Like, what's the purpose of even bothering me? Like I don't bother you, right? What's the purpose of you bothering me? What's the purpose of you coming at me, right? You know what I'm saying? I ain't doing nothing to you. What's the purpose of you coming at me, right? That's sometimes a logical question, amen, we ask. Like, man, what is this? Like, what's the purpose of this, right? It's a logical question, right? This morning, we're going to see his goal. His goal is he's trying to break the connection. Because if he can break the connection, then he can get us. But if he can't break the connection, then God holds us. But the only way he can get us to break the connection is he gets us to walk away from the blueprint. He gets us to walk away from the word. He gets us to walk away from what we've already established with God. And then it allows him to do what he's going to do with us. So in Luke 22 and 31, it's an interesting story. The story starts off by saying, Simon, Simon, look out. Satan has asked to sift you like wheat. Now, Christ is having a conversation with Peter. Peter's the one he talked to and said, upon this rock, I'll build my church. Peter's the one that Christ showed us. Amen. He put a lot of trust, put a lot of faith in, right? Because he knew Peter can hold it. Peter can do what he had to do. Peter was going to be a pillar within the New Testament church, right? Peter was going to be a pillar within this new covenant, right? So he puts this promise, there's this glory attached to Peter. There's these things that are working with Peter. So Christ tells him, he says, Simon, Simon, the enemy, there's another translation that says he desires to sift you as wheat. So to understand the importance of that, there's a few things we got to look at. First thing he says is to sift you like wheat. When you understand the sifting of wheat process, you have the wheat and it's tied to the shaft. The sifting process breaks the wheat from the shaft. It separates it. So what he tells Peter in essence is the enemy desires to separate you. He desires to separate you from me because he knows if he can separate you from me, then he can get you. When you watch the Animal Channel, you'll watch lions hunt. One thing you'll pay attention that a lion does, a lion will wait for that one animal to get separated from the rest of the pack. He'll wait for the one that's lingering behind. He'll wait for the one that's straggling behind. And that's the way he goes in. Now, how do we become disconnected? We become disconnected first in our mind. You ever seen somebody in a relationship and they may say, well, man, the relationship been over for, 12, 15, 20 years. And if you talk to that person, I always tell you, they say, well, mentally, I left a long time ago. I was just there physically. There's an old blues song that said that your body's here with me, but your mind is on the other side of town. Because when the enemy comes to separate you, the first place he goes to the mind. Because if I can get into the mind, then I can separate it from the body. That's how sometimes we can be in the physical space with people, but then mentally, we're not even there. You at work and people talking about stuff, but you got so much on your mind, you weren't even there. You're physically there, but mentally nothing's even coming in. So the first place the enemy try to go is if I can get into your mind. Because if I get into your mind, then I can get you. Because I can separate you from the thing that gives you strength. I can separate you from the thing that gives you power. You ever wonder why folks who are manipulators try to separate you from your family? I know I'm late, so I just gotta go. I just gotta jump straight into this thing. You ever wonder why manipulators try to separate you from your family? Somebody talk back to me. They end up separating you from your friends. They end up separating you from your brothers and sisters, separating you from your parents. And the whole goal is to get you by yourself. They don't want you to spend time with them. They don't want you to go around them. They want you to base your whole entire life off of them. People separate us for a reason. Because if I can separate you from your support, then I can remove you from your help. And if I can remove you from your help, then it'll allow me to do whatever it is that I'm trying to do to you in that particular moment. So he tells him the enemy is trying to separate you. Be careful of those voices that try to get you to move away from your help. Be careful of those voices that try to get you to move away from all the things that God is doing, who try to get you to separate yourself from everything that's been pulling God into you. Be careful of those who try to take you out of your mode and take you out of when you're working. The moment you decide to do something for God, and everybody needs you to do something. The moment you decide to do something for yourself, and everybody trying to make you busy. Be careful of folks who try to separate you from where your help is coming from. So he tells him, he says, he desires to separate you. Even when you go back to the book of Job, the Bible said that the sons of God came to God. The Bible said that Satan came with him. And what he asked God to do, he said, can you remove your arms from around him? Can you remove that hedge of protection you got around Job? What was he asking for? Can you separate him from you? And I can get to him. Let me go remove him from you, and I can get to him. Let me go and separate the family, and I can get to the children. Let me get the mom and the dad to beef, and then the child become the pawn. I can get to the child because there's no covering over the child. I can get to the community because there's no covering of the community because everybody's into social media, everybody's into likes, everybody's into who got this and who got that. Nobody's praying for this one, nobody's covering that one. His goal is to bring in separation, which is why God says one of the abominations to him is he who sows discord among the brethren, because it causes separation. His whole goal is to separate you. His whole goal is to get you by yourself, get you away from your spiritual help. His whole goal is to get you away from God, because he know in God, he got to fight. And it's a fight that he can't win. So he tells him, he says, the enemy desires to sift you as wheat. I love Christ's answer. Watch the answer. Watch the antidote. He said, but I have prayed for you. Don't miss this. Don't miss this. When we understand what he's trying to do, then we understand what we need to do. Let me say it again. When you understand what the enemy's trying to do, it teaches you what you need to do. So if he's trying to separate me, I then need to make sure I establish my connection. Well, how do I establish a connection with God? Prayer. Oh, I hope that makes sense. His goal is to separate you. He's separating you because outside of your help, outside of your circle of support, he's able to get you. So because I know his goal is to separate me, it is then my goal to build the connection. How do I build a connection? I build the connection to prayer. Christ tells Simon, he says, but I have prayed for you. because prayer establishes connection. So the moment I feel myself like I'm disconnected, the moment I feel like the enemy has separated me so he can do whatever he's trying to do, that's the moment that I didn't have to tap back into prayer. That's the moment I didn't have to tap back into my connection. Because if I tap back into my connection, then I'm able to get the help that I need to help me through this moment, the help that I need to get me through this season, the help that I need to get me through this particular time. The only reason the enemy seems to be successful is because we don't tap back into our connection. His goal is to separate you. His goal is to make you feel like you ain't got nobody. His goal is to make you feel like you all by yourself. His goal is to make you feel like you ain't got no help. His goal is to make you feel like everybody forgot about you. His goal is to make you feel like ain't nobody thinking about you. His goal is to make you feel like ain't nobody gonna do nothing for you. Ain't nobody looking out for you. It's just you. That's his goal, because his desire is to separate you. Christ gives us the answer. He says, but I have prayed for you. We got to love folks enough that when we see them being separated, we ought to start praying. We ought to love folks enough that when we see them being separated, we ought to start praying. Because what's taking place is the enemy is separating them for a reason. We watch it. We watch it, man. You'll watch somebody come into somebody's life, amen, and next thing you know, they don't talk to nobody no more. And then by the time you do get a chance to talk to them, you realize there was an abusive situation. A lot of things were going on, amen, that they didn't want to be going on, didn't know what was going on, right? And these people end up in all these